Hey everyone, I'm standing in front of the Steele Creek Church and Cemetery. I believe this is the second oldest church and cemetery in the Mecklenburg area outside of Charlotte. I'm less than a mile from the airport, and the reason why this is all fenced up is because of airport expansion. So this church and cemetery was founded in 1760, so it actually predates the United States. This building here was built in 1889 to replace the previous church that was built in 1858. That one burned to the ground. The bricks to build this church was made on site by the congregation, and the clay used came from right over here at the bottom of this hill. Unfortunately, I cannot go in here. I would love to get a little closer. This is an amazing church, and if you hear, you could see exactly why this church is no longer in operation. So due to the expansion of the airport, the noise of the planes flying over the church, constantly made it difficult for the congregation to, have their services and their events. In 2019, the congregation of this church approved a merger with a nearby church, so this building now remains empty. The church or the site I'm standing on with the church is now owned by the Charlotte Douglas Airport Authority. They purchased this tract of land. We're going to be hearing airplanes pretty much all day. Now, the cemetery is still owned by the church officials. I believe Charlotte Douglas Airport originally wanted to purchase this and remove all of these gravestones, but that was kind of met with a lot of resistance. So they did not purchase this tract of land here. There's headstones dating all the way back to 1763, although I believe there's some earlier ones, burials, but they're hard to find. They're not documented anywhere, and there's no headstones. So let's take a walk in the cemetery. So right ahead of me is the main gate, and to the left of that is where the older stones are located. Those go back to the mid 1700s. I'm going to try and walk through as much as I can. It's really hot and humid today. Let's see how long I can last. There's close to 2,500 headstones in here, so I don't think we're going to be looking at all of them, but let's walk through the older area and then eventually work our way over to the newer area just to see. If there's anything here of interest, I will try to read what I can, and what I can't read, I will do some research offline and then add it to the video. Died August 20, 1892, Thomas Greer. See, and right here, there's just no way you're gonna read this. It is completely washed out. Let's go look over here. It's a above ground crypt. Sacred to the memory of W.A. I think it says Hannon, born October 20th, 1830, died August 12th, 1878. How grand. I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to find what that says. I can't read that. And you can see on top here, it is so washed out I can't read it, but I will try and get some information. And although the church is now abandoned, the cemetery is still accepting new burials. Over on this side here, towards the back beyond the wall, there's a new area. And they are still burying people there. I've seen a lot of 2022 graves online. So they're really keeping this well maintained. So we have Andrew H., son of B.F. and Mary Brown. (1861), aged nearly 18 years. And you can see there's some stillborn infant, daughter of B.F. and S.M. Brown, 1871. Leanna B., I think it says. Again, I can't read that one. On this side, there's another stillborn infant, son of B.F. and Mary Brown, November 20, 1858. Memory of Joseph T. Brown, son of B.F. and Mary Brown, who departed this life September 11th, 1851, I believe, aged 2 years and 6 months. And here is Mary Brown, wife of B.F. Brown, 39 years, 10 months, and 22 days. And in the older section, you're going to see a lot of the same names. Here's Greer again, John Greer. Elmina Greer, wife of J.B. Greer, 1872. Here's two children in memory of Ida Jane, daughter of W.P. and H.C. Brown, died June 5th, 1866, aged 5 years, 4 months, 16 days. And next to Ida Jane is William Wallace, son of W.P. and H.C. Brown, died October 8th, 1866, aged 2 months. Wow, that's very close together. I can't read all of that. I will post it. And here's memory of Cornelius, son of W.P. and A.C. Brown, 2nd October, 1854. Very hard to read. Here's one up against the rock wall. Stillborn infant. I think it says daughter of, I think. January 1881. Memory of Fanny Suggs, consort of William L. Suggs, who departed this life September the 24th, 1843, in the 24th year of her age. Death like a mighty conqueror roams, to call all mortals to their tombs, excusing none through ear so young, let them be virtuous, rich or strong. John A., son of I don't know, I can't read it. Aged, looks like 3 years and 2 months, maybe. Aged, looks like 13 months. William Walker, 1870, 31 years, 5 months, 14 days. No more with us his tuneful voice, the hymn of praise shall swell, no more his gentle heart rejoice, to hear the Sabbath bell. Violet Jane. And there's some laying flat like this. They kind of come up on you. This one is very obvious, but I've been walking around and I've seen some that just are getting overgrown. And this one here looks like tree root is kind of taking its toll on this one. Let's see, it says John Hurd, but I mean it's just completely gone. Let's go look at this monument. Dr. I.W. Heron. For 50 years, practicing physician in Steele Creek and vicinity. And here's Dr. Cooper's wife, or Dr. Heron's wife, Althea Cooper. Well, gang, I think this is going to be it for today. It looks like this is going to be a multi-part video. It is so incredibly hot out here. I'm literally like melting. And my camera keeps shutting off due to heat. So I think I'm going to revisit this and probably do a part 2 in this really old area here. And then possibly a part 3 over behind me here in this newer area. But that's all I could handle for today. It's just so incredibly hot and humid. I think we've definitely went over the 100-degree mark today. And as you could see, basically there's no shade out here, right? So I'm just walking around in the heat, and the camera is not cooperating. So thanks for watching, I guess, the ultimate part 1. And we will come back to this cemetery, because this is an amazing cemetery. It's just so nicely kept and quiet, and it's all history, right? Basically, people prior to the birth of this nation are buried here. So, thanks again. Thanks for watching. Hey everyone, day 2. As you recall, on part 1, it was really hot and the camera was overheating and I had to just call it. But on day 1, we covered the west side of the cemetery. That was graves from the mid 1800s to about early 1900s. This area here is the graves of the original settlers of the area from the mid 1700s going into the mid 1800s. So we'll do a quick walk through and just see what's going on with some of these stones. They look easier to read, which is weird, right? They're older by 100 years, but they're easier to read. I guess it comes down to the materials that were used. And again, I believe these stones are made out of soapstone, which doesn't weather as much. I don't know what the other 1800 stones are made from. If anyone knows, just, please post it below. But let's just go through a few. And if there's anything really overly interesting, I will probably break it out to a shorter video. Not everyone likes these long walkthroughs. I guess if it wasn't for all the moss growing on it, you could probably read that. And right on the edge here is the actual, the newer section. And beyond that wall is where people are still, to this day, are being buried. So we're going to cover that at some other time. But what I really like these 17 and early 1800 stones. The carving is just so, just so incredibly tight. It must have been incredible or really hard to do this. Yeah, we won't go through every single one. We'll just kind of walk through it, and if anything sticks out, what's interesting is you can see there's Margaret Greer, EIR, and James Greer, GREER, and in this whole area it's kind of a mix. So at some point in time they must have changed the spelling of their name. In memory of John, I'll post the last name, who died October AD 1785, aged 13 months. So many young children buried in this area. Very sad. Wow, this one is really detailed. Look at that. And the work on these things. Wow, look at the size of these. Revolutionary soldier. Thomas Greer, son of James and Margaret Greer. January 20th, 1828, in the 84th year of his age. He was twice married. First to Hannah Alexander, by whom he had 4 children. Second, Margaret, who married, these are the kids. Margaret, who married Colonel Samuel Neal, James Thomas. The second wife was Susanna Spratt. See her headstone. That's incredible. That's funny. See her headstone. So let's find her headstone, and it's right next door. It's very, very large. Wow, it's amazing. She was a daughter of James and Catherine Spratt, and second wife of Thomas Greer, by whom she had 9 children. And then they list the children and who they married. Wow, that is amazing. I'm surprised something that large survived all this time. Here's another Revolutionary War soldier, George Harkness, Sergeant Major, Revolutionary War. That says John Whiteside and Rachel Whiteside. I'll get more info on that. Anything I can't read or I stop at, I definitely will try and get as much info as possible. We got a few under this tree here. Here lies the body of John Blackwood, who departed this life September the 10th, 1779. Rachel McCord, wife of William McCord. Yeah, not going to be able to read this one. I'll have to post detail, but little plaque from the Daughters of the American Revolution. So obviously a Revolutionary War soldier. Right here is the Knox family. And you're going to see, a lot of repeat last names. It was a very close-knit community back in the 1700s, and to this day, they're still relatives of the original settlers of this county. And they are also being buried here as well. Right here, that one there, which I'll cover separately, that is Sarah Knox. And that is the oldest burial with a headstone in this cemetery. And I'll cover that a little bit more in detail later, or in another video. In memory of General W.H. Neal, born November 21st, 1799, died December 29th, 1888. I would guess that's Civil War vet. Hannah C. Neal. And these are always interesting too, where they kind of have one stone with two, sacred to the memory of Richard Robinson and Alexander Robinson. Richard died 1789, aged 76 years. Alexander Robinson died July 12th, 1786, aged 30 years. And if you notice, this is the word also, right? That F-style character is an Old English S. Although there's an S right there, right? So I don't know the rules behind that, like when they use that and when they don't use that. If anyone knows, please post that below. That's really interesting to even see that. That's pretty cool. And there's something below here that I'll post as well, but I believe it says, "Why do we mourn departed friends, or shake at death's alarms? 'Tis but the voice that Jesus sends to call us to his arms." And again, you can see the old style S. Daughter of John and Polly Robinson. And that's interesting too. You see that a lot too, where they start and then they finish here, right? So Robinson, who died April 20th, 1809, aged 8 days. There's some really interesting and unique gravestones here. Like, look at this one. I'm wondering if, I don't know, was that? No, I don't think that was made that way. I think they surrounded this old style with the newer to protect it, maybe. But that's really interesting too. Go back a little. Look at that. That's cool. There's a few that way here. There's another one. And this one, that one's not really easy to read, so I'll post that. And this is a more common style than you would think. There was something, I think it was an insurance company called the Woodman of the World, and part of that policy was you would get a gravestone of your choice, depending on how much you pay, of course. I want to do a video on that because I've seen that a lot in the Charlotte area, and there's many different styles, but that one seems to be the more common style. But that's really cool. Here's another unique gravestone. Sloan, children of, I think it says L and Mary Sloan, and you can see there's two footstones right here, so I don't think there's, oh, maybe there is. Yeah, Louise, June 20, 1899 to September 16th, 1906, I believe. And there's some writing back here. And on this side, I don't know. Sorry, I'll find that out. So we're coming up across the street here is where the mid-1800s stones were that we've been at previously. And here's a little plaque at the beginning of the old area. Notice Mecklenburg is spelled completely differently than it is today. Let's work our way around and back, and then I think that'll pretty much do it for this area. Children of J.W. and S.J. Somerville, infant daughter, July 28th, 1857 to September 6th, 1857. Joseph Osborne, September 22nd, 1860 to October 6th, 1862. And Margaret Caroline, I think that says September 12th, 1868 to December 23rd, 1873. So yes, very young children unfortunately passed away. Robert Ray, born October 1828, died September 9th, 1888, and I believe that finger represents pointing to the heavens. Unfortunately, though, it it broke off. It was upright at some point in time.
Well, everyone, I think that wraps it up for part 2. In part 3, I'm going to point out some more interesting and fascinating graves and monuments. And in chapter 4, we'll visit the newer section. Thanks for watching. Hey folks, we are back at the Steele Creek Church and Cemetery in Charlotte, North Carolina. And in this episode, we are going to visit some of the more interesting graves that I discovered while walking through this church and cemetery. It's no surprise that most of these are in the older section. So let's take a look at what I found.
This is the grave of John Cathy, which is the second oldest grave or gravestone in the cemetery, and it's a stone of a child, and the inscription says, here lies the body of John Cathy, who departed his life March, I can't read the date, of 1767, aged 3 years. So again, this is the second oldest gravestone, the oldest male gravestone. There's 2 or possibly 3 unmarked graves that are a few years older. Of course, we'll never find those. They're unmarked. Oh, let's take a look at this one. Reverend John Douglas. Yes, I believe one of the reverends of this church, going back quite a ways. I'll put his info in the description as well. A little bit of a bio. I'm standing in front of the grave of Humphrey Hunter, who was the 3rd minister of this church from 1804 to 1827. He was born in Ireland in 1755, came over to the area and was quite successful. He was the minister of the church, he was a physician, and down here you could see he was a Revolutionary War hero. So he did quite a bit in the 73 years. So let me read this inscription.
Sacred to the memory of the Reverend Humphrey Hunter, who departed his life August 21st, 1827, in the 73rd year of his age. He was a native of Ireland and emigrated to America at an early period of his life. He was one of those who early promoted the cause of freedom in Mecklenburg County, May 20th, 1775, and subsequently bore an active part in securing the independence of his country. For nearly 38 years, he labored as a faithful and assiduous ambassador of Christ, strenuously enforcing the necessity of repentance and pointing out the terms of salvation. As a parent, he was kind and affectionate. As a friend, warm and sincere. And as a minister, persuasive and convincing.
We are standing in front of the tomb of General Robert Irwin. It's impossible to read the stone, but the plaque here says he fought in the Revolutionary War. And there's a plaque here as well. I did look up what this inscription says, so let me read it to you. It says, "Sacred to the memory of General Robert Irwin, who departed this life on the 23rd of December, 1800, aged 62 years. Also to the memory of Mary Irwin, his wife, who departed this life the 24th of March, 1796, aged 42 years." So General Robert Irwin was an original signer of the Mecklenburg Declaration of Independence. There's a little bit of controversy around whether or not there is a Mecklenburg Declaration of Independence, but it's supposedly was signed in 1775, declaring independence from Great Britain. If there's any interest in that, I could probably do a little research and come out with another video on that specifically. Thomas Jefferson actually dismissed the Mecklenburg Declaration as a hoax. So again, there is some controversy around this, but General Robert Irwin, no doubt, fought in the Revolutionary War, and here we are. Very weathered top. Can make out some of it. I see his wife who departed, and I see the words Robert Irwin here, but it is very difficult to read. This is the grave of Sarah Knox. This is the oldest grave in the cemetery. And as I may have mentioned, there's probably 2 or 3 unmarked graves back here. I don't think we're going to find that, obviously, but this is the oldest burial with a gravestone in the cemetery. And the inscription says, "Here lies the body of Sarah Knox, who departed this life November the 8th, 1765, aged 66 years. And then there's some text that says, "Also a son and daughter of Samuel Knox, children." So I'm assuming there's also children in this grave. I'm not really sure why that's there. If that's standard, practice for the time, I don't know. But it's incredible that, something so old that you could still read this. And then on the other side, way in the back where the stones are, from the mid-1800s, they're very difficult to read. So it must obviously be the materials used. And I believe this is soapstone. I'm glad I found it. First burial with a gravestone in the cemetery. And what's interesting is right next to the Sarah Knox grave is, I believe this says Samuel Knox, but what's interesting is if you look at the date was 1800, but they made an 8 out of the 7. That's really interesting. I can't really read this one too much, so I'll just post something. So the grave here on the left, that seems to be tipping a little bit over, is the grave of John Lees, and the inscription is incredible. I'm going to read this in its entirety. Sacred to the memory of John Lees, who after a fatal illness of 5 days, died on the 22nd day of December, 1813, aged 19 years. He died on the way to Charleston, South Carolina, 5 miles above Monk's Corner. His tender and affectionate father had the corpse put in a coffin and brought home and buried here on the 8th day after he died. He had left his mother, brothers, and sisters with the wish to see Charleston, but was stopped short of his expectations and brought home a corpse to his mother. Diseases are thy servants, Lord. They come at thy command. I'll not attempt a murmuring word against thy chastening hand. That's one incredible inscription. Very detailed. Here's a very interesting marker. It's down in the middle, but there's two sides. Now the right side is the really interesting side, but on the left side it says to continue the remembrance of a child of Margaret and William Patterson, born on the 14th of June 1793, died the 21st of September 1794. What's interesting on both sides too is the word Patterson, right? It's not a letter S, it's the old English character. I don't know what the name of that character is, but there's a character that's no longer used. The letter S would be here. I'll post a little blurb on that. That was very interesting. It was kind of hard to find because, I was looking for a Patterson. On this side, though, it says the continued remembrance of John, the child of William and Margaret Patterson, who was shot by accident in the 3rd year of his age, AD 1770. So that's really sad. Makes you wonder what happened. So unfortunately, this couple lost 2 children. Okay, we're in the newer section. We're in front of the Dixon family, and I think I'm going to make a separate video on this one. But this is the grave of John Craig Sonny Dixon, who was a baseball player. There's some more stats that I think would be more appropriate for a video on its own. So I think what it'll do is we'll just leave it at that right here. Revolutionary soldier. Thomas Greer, son of James and Margaret Greer. January 20th, 1828, in the 84th year of his age. He was twice married. First to Hannah Alexander, by whom he had 4 children. Second, Margaret, who married, oh, these are the kids. Margaret, who married Colonel Samuel Neal, James Thomas. The second wife was Susanna Spratt. See her headstone. That's incredible. That's funny. See her headstone. So let's find her headstone, and it's right next door. It's very, very large. Wow, it's amazing. She was a daughter of James and Catherine Spratt, and second wife of Thomas Greer, by whom she had 9 children. And then they list the children and who they married. Wow, that is amazing. I'm surprised something that large survived all this time. So this is a monument for the first person buried in the cemetery. In memory of the first person buried in this cemetery, a stranger passing through, thrown from horse against a tree and killed near here. So there is no headstone. I'm assuming that this is it. There's no confirmation of that, but there's a stone right here, and there is a marker right here that I can't read the writing on. I'm assuming this is where the person was buried. This is the first burial. So obviously, right, you'd put it right near the gate. Very interesting. Unknown person buried in this cemetery. First burial.
Sometimes I'll go to a cemetery knowing what I want to film, and other times I'll just do a walkthrough with no particular subject. In both cases, I like to research what I film. And in this case, I walked past a grave for literally 2 seconds, and when I went home to look this one up, it was incredible. I believe this is probably one of the saddest inscriptions I've ever seen in a cemetery, and I'm going to read this in its entirety. This monument is intended to instruct posterity of a mournful and unusual occurrence in the history of man, the death of 3 children of the same parents, James and Agnes Brown, in the short space of 10 hours, viz. Sarah, John Bigham, and Mary, on the night of the 2nd and on the 3rd day of May, 1800. While parental affection heaves the sigh and drops the tears of sorrow, experience of the world and the voice of Christianity say it well. Hush my angry passions, then let each rebellious sigh be silent at God's sovereign will, with every murmur die. So there's a lot of Old English style phrases in here, but what this inscription is basically announcing is that James and Agnes Brown lost 3 children within 10 hours on the 3rd of May, 1800. It goes on to say that even though James and Agnes Brown are suffering from extreme sorrow and anger, they are looking towards their faith to get them through this trying time.
So this is dedicated to another cemetery where the people were moved here. Gonna take a shot of that. Maybe we'll get a picture. 14 sets of remains from the Spratt Cemetery. And down here are the numbers from 1 to 14. I think somewhere online it lists the names of who these are. But some of these stones they did save. These are the original gravestones. Wow, it says 1776. 1776. I'm going to voice over this also. I don't want to get my hand in the way. That looks like 1771, I don't know. Here lies the body of William Barnett, who died on the 14th, 1778, age 60 years. May 14th, or March. I don't know, I'll have to look that one up. Here lies the body of Robert, I don't know, who deceased October 19th, 1778, aged, I think it says 6 years. I don't know, is it 1704? I don't think that, maybe it's 1784 or 94. I have to look at this one up. Very hard to read the name though. I don't know. Yeah, you're not going to see this one. This is not... I hope there's something online where I could see this. Interesting. And I don't know what this is. This is maybe a footstone. There's no writing on it. It's probably a footstone. Remains were removed from the Barnett Smart family graveyard on Nations Ford Road and entombed in Sharon Memorial Park. And I think if I'm understanding this correctly, it was moved to Sharon Memorial Park, but then they moved the graves from Sharon Memorial Park to here, Steele Creek. And here comes another jet flying right over the church. Amazing. So here we have a few of those headstones. This one is absolutely flat. It says GWS. That's the only thing I could make out. So we'll try and find that. Here lies the body of George White Smart, born August 1764, died May 1810. He was an honest man and a kind and affectionate father and husband. GWS, maybe that is this as well. I don't know. We'll look that up and try and confirm that. Okay, and this grave here is covered with a lot of moss, so I'll try and get the details later, but this is the headstone of Anne Barnett. And as you see in the memorial, Anne Spratt Barnett died 1801, 83 years. And I do believe it says 83 years, so we'll try and get some more info on that. And this says TBS on the top here, I think. Everything else is just completely gone. So this is the Barnett relocation. Hey everyone, we're back at the Steele Creek Church and Cemetery in Mecklenburg County, North Carolina. I believe this is my third or fourth visit. You can see right here are the old graves from the 1700s. Way in the back here are the graves from the 1800s. And today we're going to finish up looking at the newer graves from the mid-1900s into current time. I don't really know, what we're going to find. The newer gravestones are, they don't have the charm that these older ones have. But I just figured we, finish up and look at everything here. So let's get started. Let's work our way over. All right, we've made it to the back end of the cemetery. This is the area, the newer area. I think early 1900s, mid 1900s, you're going to see a lot of 50s, 60s, 70s. And over here beyond the wall are the current day 2000s. We'll kind of go through all of it quickly, because as you see, there's really nothing that really stands out as an amazing gravestone. It's kind of a shame the newer ones seem a lot less intricate, although I see one here that looks really amazing. So let's go check that one out. Wow, this is nice. Look at that. It's a really nice black grave marker. So let's just keep going. This is interesting. I see a grave marker here with Berry Hill on it, and as you probably remember from one of the earlier episodes, Berry Hill, that family goes back all the way to the mid 1700s. So this family has been around in the Mecklenburg area for many years. Okay, so we just walked through this area here, which is around the mid 1900s, 1930 to 1960-ish. We're gonna walk through stone wall here to the newer area. Let's stop for a plane. They're flying right over the church today, so it's much louder than the last couple of visits. But this area here is where people who are recently deceased are being buried. This is the, I guess you want to call it the 2000s area. It's outside the boundaries of the older cemetery, but it's still part of the same cemetery. It's very nice and quiet, other than the ear-piercing airplanes flying overhead. It's a shame. I mean, that church has so much history, and they basically had to give it up. I really need to come back and do honor to all these war vets. There's so many, going all the way back to the Revolutionary War. I am right under these planes. Baby boy Norman, December 20, 1958, December 21st, 1958. And baby girl Norman, October 15th, 1957. Wow, that is sad. All right, gang, I think I'm going to call it for this chapter. I just really wanted to finish up. You know, I looked at everything except this area, so I just wanted to kind of go through it and see. So we've covered basically the history of the church, the graves of the original settlers in the 1700s, the 1800s, and the mid 1900s, and current day. So I think that about wraps it up for the whole series. Although I may be back from time to time. There's a lot of stuff here that I've been discovering, especially in this older area here. Some of the gravestones are amazing. And as I discover new and interesting things, I'll definitely be back. But I appreciate you coming along on this journey, and watching all the videos of this Steele Creek series. And I hope you enjoy it. Hope you like, subscribe, and comment as always. And I'd like to thank you for watching. Take care.